is going on, everybody? Friday edition of the Daily Dime here at FTNFantasy.com. My name is Zac Graham, aka Kawaisenberg DFS, joined once again by my good buddy Alex Blickle. Alex, still up there in PA, so no underdog plays for you here today. I guess we'll give the plays, but you cannot play. So what's going on?
Yeah, I'm actually returning to Virginia tonight. So
Okay.
I don't know when I'm going to have the NFL plays out for everybody. I don't think I want to talk about any of those specific NFL plays on the show here today, because got to make sure that all of our subscribers are able to get them when I do post them, whether that's tonight or tomorrow morning. It will be soon, and I've got a lot that I like, so should be a fun weekend.
Yeah, glad to hear that. Returning home, able to play yourself this weekend with NFL and obviously NBA continuing, and I'm sure we'll have some college football picks, some college basketball picks in the various channels here at FTN Fantasy. It's gonna be a busy weekend headed into the holiday week. Decent night last night. Like, if I can do my daily bitch session here for a second, if I would have known Devin Vassell was no longer minutes restricted and going to be in the starting lineup, and that would push Jeremy Sohan in the fourth quarter and overtime onto Trae Young instead of Steph Castle taking that assignment. I don't know. I probably still would have taken that double-double prop yesterday, but for Sohan to be at 16.7 boards headed into the fourth quarter, and we get overtime, and he finishes with 8, just prevents us from the big night, because obviously if you did the round robin of our 4 picks yesterday, as we said, you got the one to come through, and you got more money in your account on Underdog this morning than you started yesterday with. So we'll take it. But man, once again, just right there, just waiting for the big night. And just 3 games here tonight. So I do have some props, one that I really like, and I'm kind of questioning whether I'm missing something or not on it. And we can start with that one. But all 3 of these picks are actually going to come from the same games, and appreciate everybody who's tuning in. A half hour later today, Alex talked about that yesterday, how we were trying to go a little bit later going forward to get those stocks props posted and maybe some fantasy point props. And of course, when we go live here on Friday, neither are posted. And I think some of that may have to do with the fact that we're waiting on a Charlotte injury report, a Thunder injury report, both of those teams on the second end of a back-to-back tonight. And I guess off the top, I think we're going to get people resting from both of those teams. The Heat are 1-point home favorites here against the Thunder. And no disrespect to the Heat, something's going on there, right? I do think we can either way expect the Thunder to flatten out their rotation a little bit, especially compared to what we saw in the knockout rounds. And we saw some of that last night too. A little bit of foul trouble also helps a guy like Aaron Wiggins get over 30 minutes there, playing the entire fourth quarter, getting some extra time in the first half. But I think that's something to look out for. We should get that injury report on the 1:30 there on the NBA site. And then for Charlotte, 10-point dogs to Philadelphia. And again, no shade to Philly, but questionable Joel Embiid. So maybe he's in. And maybe we also get either Brandon Miller sitting out again, or do we rest LaMelo Ball coming off of that calf issue right after he played 34-ish minutes last night? So those are the 2 things I'm looking out for right now, and kind of trying to play, make our best educated guess, looking at the lines, looking at what these teams have done, what their schedule looks like, the injury reports over the past couple of games, things like that. So let's jump into the picks here. Let's pull up Underdog, and of course, if you are over on FTNFantasy.com, you can see some of these picks popping in the prize picks tool at FTN Fantasy. We're going to get all 3 of these picks this morning, Alex, from Thunder at Heat. And again, this is just a 1-point spread, second lowest implied total on the night, because now Philly 11-point home favorites with a 215.5 implied total. So again, going the way of Philadelphia. Either one or both of those things are true, that Embiid is going to give it a go here tonight, or we're going to have a key name missing on the Charlotte side of things. But Miami 1-point home favorites here against the Thunder. Thunder on the second half of a back-to-back. And we're going to talk about some bigger names in a moment, but we're going to scroll down here to Jaime Jaquez Jr. and take the higher than 2.5 rebounds here. So this is where I said a minute ago, I don't know really what I'm missing here. Like, I know Jaime has been in a much more reduced role this season than we expected, coming off of the solid rookie season, and solid may be an understatement. He was great last year. But it's just like the minutes have waned and been a little bit inconsistent, but this still seems really low to me against the Thunder, who I've made a big deal about over the last 10 days, 2 weeks. This is the best rebounding matchup in the league. They're the worst rebounding team in the NBA. It's not particularly close, only really with the Washington Wizards. So that illustrates how bad they've been on the glass, right? I'm just repeating myself at this point when we talk about the rebounding matchup with OKC, but Jaquez himself, he's averaging 4.8 rebounds per game on the season, Alex, in 21.1 minutes per game. So we have him for 17 minutes tonight. He's still getting 3.6 rebounds in the FTN fantasy model. He's over this number in 18 of his 20 games. Is there something off the top of your head that I'm missing here? Because this feels great, even in reduced minutes. Like, we've got Jovic questionable and Pell Larson is questionable, but like, Jaime's still getting high teens, low 20s in minutes when those guys are active. Jovic is the one that's been pushed out of the rotation of late. So, like, this feels like a very advantageous prop at this point with the normal 1x multiplier.
This feels like the line was set by somebody who just game log watched, looked at the last 5 games, and just picked a number and didn't look at any long-term like rebound rate numbers, or didn't consider the fact that the amount of minutes he's playing right now are probably the low end of his range of outcomes, where anything that happens that changes the rotation is only going to help him, not hurt him. Like, he's not getting in foul trouble and being forced to sit out when he's only playing 16, 17, 19 minutes in those last 5 games. So yeah, I'm with you. I think this is really strong. I think that 3.6 projected rebounds number kind of says it all. This should be 3.5, if not 3.0. Certainly should not be 2.5.
And you can see they do give us one ladder opportunity all the way up to 5.5, which he's over in 6 of his 20 games this year. So, like, for 5.14x, I might be throwing that one in here as well, kind of just for shits and gigs, because, again, I just think this line as a whole, whether it's the 2.5, just your 1x multiplier, or this ladder opportunity that just popped up in the last 10 minutes, I think they're both advantageous lines there. So we'll continue to consider that 5.5 there on Jaquez. But I actually want to go to the other side of the ball here next, and we don't have to do much scrolling. We're going to stick with the rebounds prop and actually go to Lou Dort, higher than 4.5 rebounds tonight, 1.13x. Now, like, at 1:30 when the lineup comes out, am I shocked if Lou Dort is one of the name, or maybe just the only name that rests? I don't believe he's missed a game this year. Not really, but like, he also doesn't jump to the front of the line when I think about who are the Thunder going to potentially rest here tonight. We have him projected for 5.4 rebounds tonight in the FTN fantasy projections. He averages 4.8 on the season and 29.3 minutes per game. He's over in 14 of 26 appearances this season. So again, not a big, strong lean in the game log watching category of how we like to break these down, but like, slight lean to the over there. Miami is actually 5th worst in the league at opponent rebounds given up. So, like, these are 2 bottom 5 teams in terms of rebounding. And I don't know, man, like this, I just think this is a good matchup. Getting the extra 1.13x multiplier on this, where our projection is giving us a very strong lean to the over with that 5.4 rebound projection. Like, you could also see a rest guy or two, like, again, SGA, Isaiah Hartenstein, and J-Dub, Jalen Williams, are the 3, I think. Certainly not a hot take that if we're going to rest somebody here as the Thunder, I would think all 3 of those guys are stronger rest candidates than Lou. And like, if J-Dub sits, or especially if Hartenstein sits, and we're going really small with this team again, that would just make this prop even stronger. So assuming everybody is in, and I think that's what we've got here right now with this line, I still like it with the 1.13x multiplier. Do you have any thoughts there? Like, anything you want to tell me to be cautious on approaching this prop? What do you see here with Lou Dort?
No, so I'll add 2 things. The first is your thought there, like, what if Hartenstein sits? I feel like that would also potentially help Jaquez, because if Miami's going to respond by also playing small now, maybe that's a path for Jaquez to get a few more minutes. which is kind of the only way that I'd be interested in that ladder opportunity for Huckes. I think I would need to see a path for more minutes to want to ladder that one, but the 2.5 is just so strong regardless. But if you go to the Prize Picks tool and you change the line on Dort's rebounds to 4.5 instead of the 4.0 that you're seeing on Prize Picks, you still see 57.6% win rate, and we're getting a really nice boosted payout here. What was it, 1.13x on the Dort rebounds? So we know 57.6% is good enough for a pick, even if there's no boost, and now we're getting a boosted payout. This is really strong. And like we said, there might even be some positive correlation with Dort and Jaquez, just depending on how the injury news breaks, or not even injury news, just that active versus inactive news breaks, and how that might affect rotations.
Yeah, so like I mentioned, we're going to close it out. Trio of picks from this game. Jimmy Butler, higher than 28.5 PRA here. So your points, rebounds, assists. Again, like my first note here was we're 1-point favorites over the Thunder here tonight. Like, not only is that surprising, and we want to keep our eyes on those injury reports, but I think it's you can probably count on more full minutes here from Jimmy tonight than you've seen along the way this season at points, and certainly in years past. Over in 10 of 14 games this year when playing 30 or more minutes. So I wanted to, have that important caveat, because we know Jimmy has left early from at least one game this year. Of course, there's going to be blowout run in certain games once you're more than a quarter of the way through the season, as we are, and just the way that he sometimes doesn't play a ton, even in a close game. So Jimmy over this number in 10 of 14 games when he's played 30 or more minutes. Again, if you want it, like I started the morning looking at all of the rebound props here for the Heat going up against the Thunders. Like, I don't hate the 5.5, but we haven't projected for 30.5 points, rebounds, and assists if you combine his projections together, which is literally right on the number of what he has averaged this season. And so again, this game projected to be down to the wire with just the 1-point spread. 28.5 feels pretty good here, getting this number under 30 in a game where, like, Jimmy Butler, like, even in a knockdown, drag out grind of a game like this projects to be with that, 215 total. I really like this one too. And again, if this game stays close, I think you maybe get a little bit of a correlation boost having all three of these together. And I know we don't have PRA in the tool, so you can't quite see if the tool would agree with that hypothesis, but I don't hate having all three picks on this 3-game slate to start the morning, coming from the same game with the closest spread in Vegas.
Here's some interesting context to this one.
Okay.
We know that Jimmy doesn't always treat the regular season the way he treats the postseason. Let's put it that way, right? And we, as you mentioned, like, we see that sometimes his minutes aren't the greatest. But when he's had at least 3 days of rest so far this year, his PRA totals are 45, 48, 31. The only time it was a 3 days rest instead of 4+ in this list, 20, and then 64. So if you took his average PRA when getting this much rest, and last played on Monday, so this is another instance of 3+ days rest, he's been just completely obliterating this line more often than not. So not only do I like this, but I'm going to be pretty interested in ladder opportunities on these PRA.
Yeah, let's see what we've got here on Underdog. You can get 1.11x for the 29.5, then just 2.05x for the 34. Like, how we feeling about these down here? I mean, you have 5.4x for the 39.5, 16x for the 44.5. Again, I think that's, you mentioned the one time, which I think was on Monday with that triple-double performance when he went over that 44.5 number. What do you think about these offerings?
It's not one time. It's 3 times.
Oh, okay.
45, 48, and 64. Those are 3 of the PRA numbers when getting 3+ days rest for Jimmy out of 5 games. So he's hit this 3 of 5. He's not going to hit it 60% of the time, but he's also not going to hit it only once out of 15, 16
for sure.
tries. So the over 44.5, just take me all the way to the top of this line for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we got to like this more than the Jaime Jaquez, because, like, the number of times that the outcome for Jaime is going to be him getting up into the upper, mid to upper 20s in minutes. I think this Jimmy number, you feel a little bit better taking the risk, playing, being a little bit more bold here. and laddering Jimmy up. So that's something we should consider as well. Okay, let's get a refresh. Come on, stocks, props, or fantasy. Like, give us something here.
I checked again a minute ago. I didn't see it.
Oh,
yeah,
terrible. That's tough. Well, maybe if we come back after talking some DFS, let's get a refresh on our GPP score.
I might have to hustle back to Virginia so that I can add this Jimmy ladder with a couple of the NFL plays that I want. So we'll see. This is again like that's the best NBA ladder opportunity that I think we've seen since the De'Aaron Fox ladder that we hit on. What was that, 3 weeks ago now? So I'm all about this one.
Yeah, and I know who was it that hit? I think Preston was in the chat last night talking about his Dante DiVincenzo ladder, and that hit. So that was nice. And that was, he was talking about how much Dante really loathes the Knicks organization with that wound so fresh from the trade a couple months back. And yeah, man, he does it in garbage time. Like they're up like 30. Dante's still out there gunning, trying to get his numbers up against his former team. Let's pull up the ownership projections GPP scores here, and let's rock and roll. Let's get a couple zooms for everybody who's tuned in here. Start with DraftKings, and the thing that you asked me when we jumped on the stream was, should Aaron Wiggins be the top GPP score in the model? And like my answer was not a resounding absolutely yes, but I also don't look at this and think that it's explicitly wrong, because the one thing about this 3-game slate, Alex, is we have no Damian Lillard, so we've already got a min-price Delon Wright on both sites. And if we, go off the board, as Doc has in a shorthanded backcourt situation, and we get a Ryan Rollins start or something like that, well, guess what? Ryan Rollins, unsurprisingly, also at the minimum. So you're going to have that minimum guy starting, in all likelihood, in the Bucks backcourt. But, and again, this ownership number, right around 11% for Aaron Wiggins. If we get guys resting for the Thunder, that number is going to skyrocket, right? Yeah. So we saw him get back to 31 minutes last night, played the entire fourth, like I mentioned, got some extra time in the first half due to Dort foul trouble. But as they are now, the Thunder, that is, out of the knockout rounds where the rotation tightened, and Aaron Wiggins was one of those guys that got squeezed, not completely out of the rotation, but playing single-digit minutes in those knockout games, like we should expect him to get back into the low 20s on a night-to-night basis. And low 20s, I'm talking 20, 21. We've got him for 22 minutes here on the back-to-back because, like I said at the top of the stream, this Thunder team is in the midst of an 8-game and 14-day stretch. And I believe Coach Dagnall did talk about the fact that they are very cognizant of that coming out of the knockout rounds. Like you saw him pull his guys in the cup final with like 3 minutes to go. And so again, I think this team will see, I'm sure as soon as we shut it down, this Thunder injury report come across, but like Aaron Wiggins is somebody who was in my placeholder on both sites even before I saw this GPP score. So right now he would be my favorite value play outside, of course, like a Delon Wright with what I expect his ownership to be. I expect that to rise from what it is this morning. You could see 28%. Like I think that comes up. But maybe if we get the rest opportunities from not only Oklahoma City, but if you see LaMelo sit, like then Vasilije Micic on both sides is going to come back into play at the guard position. So maybe the Delon Wright number doesn't come up as high as I expect it to, but we'll keep our eyes on that, of course, throughout the day. And unsurprising to see Giannis, Chris Middleton, Bobby Portis at the top of the morning run in ownership projections here. And Giannis is second in the GPP scores. And that's kind of my next point, that you don't need to be a DFS expert to just look at the projections, sort by raw points, and see that Giannis is in his own tier tonight. And especially on DraftKings where he's just 11-3. Tough matchup against Cleveland. And it is, I think, a 9.5 point spread in favor of the Cavs. So to me, the only way that I'll listen to an argument on fading Giannis tonight with the value that we already have and that I expect will open up, even on a 3-game slate, like he's in his own tier. Just give me the raw points, especially on DraftKings. Maybe a little bit of a different story on FanDuel where he's over 12K there. But again, the more value that emerges, the stronger Giannis is going to look just in the you need these raw points type of sense. So what are you seeing when you look through the GPP scores, the ownership, and the like?
Yeah, that ownership on Giannis will probably go up. In fact, it will certainly go up if, as you expect, more value opens up. But let's also just look at the fact he's got a 57.5% smash percentage. Do we care if he gets to 50, 55%? Absolutely not. Even if he gets to 60, 65%, the GPP score is not going to be so bad that we feel like we have to fade it, as long as you're then getting different somewhere else. So I think Giannis is awesome. And the fact that Giannis is such a good play also points us towards why Wiggins looks so good here, because you don't have to feel like Wiggins is going to win the slate for you. If he makes it a lot easier for you to get Giannis and some more contrarian upside in your lineup, then he becomes a great play. So I will say, like, I think Wiggins is kind of breaking the fail percentage. 0.0%. Yeah, that's not correct, but it goes to show, like, we have a formula for fail percentage that works 99% of the time. So the 1%, the one time it doesn't work, it still at least tells us that this guy has a really, really low likelihood of failure, and it makes him a good play.
Yeah, so obviously we'll keep our eyes on that. I know in the chat, and I do want to get back to these props, see if anything is populated, but Zed was in here. I see Ian in here. Zed in here. Ian said he just got paid, so he's ready to make some cash this weekend. And Zed says Kelly O rebounds and assists. And look, I love Zed, right? When you say Kelly O, you got to say Oubre, brother. Like, Kelly O is Kelly Olynyk. There's only one Kelly O in this house, and it's Kelly Olynyk. But Oubre, how do you feel about that? Like, in terms of the projections on Oubre, let me pull those up. I'm not like, I think I like Kelly Oubre in it more in the DFS sense than somewhere I was running to with the props here this morning, just because if Joel Embiid is back, I'm not sure it's something that I would want to attack in the prop market. But do you have any thoughts on Kelly Oubre?
What is the line there? Is it 7.5?
Yeah, let's pull him up.
Because we have a slight lean on the rebounds. We've got him at 6.59 versus a line of 6, and on the assists 1.84 versus 1.5. But I don't think that it's enough on either one to make me like the RA. I definitely like the combination of rebounds plus assists more than either of the individual ones, but yeah, I don't think it's strong enough to be a play.
Well, and we also on the rebounds and assists, both individually and the RA prop here, less than the 1x multiplier on that. Mm-hmm. So not something that I'm really excited to put into any entries right now. But if you think for whatever reason Joel Embiid is going to sit, maybe you're taking a look at his points prop. Maybe you're trying to ladder one. Maybe his PRA, right? You see that's also at a 0.87x. So like if you can go up to a 24.5x, if Embiid did sit tonight, and again, I lean that he plays, but if he did sit tonight, those numbers would look really, really good. You're just taking a risk and making your best educated guess on that this morning. So I'm personally staying away from that at the moment.
Yeah, that's not a risk I want to take because I'm with you. I think Embiid will play.
All right, I'm still sitting over here just hoping we get some stocks props. I don't know if it's going to happen. So
doesn't seem like
let's finish up some DFS talk here for our 3-game slate, because again, there's not much else to go through here in terms of the GPP score. Like on DraftKings, J-Dub, LaMelo if he gives it a go at 9,800, Tyler Hero, Darius Garland, Kevin Love. That's one thing. You mentioned the Wiggins fail percentage and how that seems a little bit broken. I think Kevin Love's rates here, 16 DK points in 12 minutes. Maybe a little bit hot here. I don't know. Like K Love could still get out there and produce over a fantasy point per minute, but that's pretty strong. So that's the one sitting here in like the top 10 of the GPP scores on the morning run that I would really turn my nose up at. But I think the rest of these make pretty good sense. And you can see Kevin Love too, just projected for 3% ownership in that morning run. We talked about no Dame Lillard, right? And the backcourt effects with the min price guys. But if this game is going to stay close, Giannis, maybe you're sneaking in some Bobby Portis. You can see he's got a positive GPP score as well in the field. Over a third of the field right now on DraftKings is on a $5,400 Bobby Portis. So I get that. I get the positive GPP score on Brooke Lopez, AJ Green, because if this game is going to stay close, it's going to be some of those guys stepping up in Dame's absence. And like with Delon Wright or Rollins, whoever gets the start, you don't need a ton. Like if it was yesterday's slate, I would not be sitting here, tooting the horn for Delon Wright because he's not a great fantasy point per minute producer at this point of his career. Used to be better. But 18 points out of him tonight. And like, I think you can still win a tournament with that because of how highly owned he's going to be and the salary relief that some of these, minimum price or near the floor type of guys like Wiggins, like Wright, etc. Like it provides enough to get up to Giannis and still get to some of these stronger mid-range options. So again, I'm not shying away from those values at all. And I just hope that this slate doesn't completely turn on its head when we get Hornets and Thunder injury reports here. But if it does, we'll of course discuss those changes in the NBA DFS channel here in the FTN Fantasy Discord.
I've got two things here. So first is Love is at 16.6 fantasy points per game in 11.5 minutes. So I think the projection for him, the rates are good. Where we need to adjust is we need to give him a little bit more volatility because when you're only projected for 12 minutes, the difference between 12 minutes and 8 minutes is a hell of a lot more impactful than the difference between a guy playing 24 versus 20 when you're not as high of a fantasy point per minute player. So we got to probably boost his volatility, not necessarily change his rates. But the other thing I want to point to is you're kind of alluding to the different environment of this slate as a whole compared to a much bigger, higher upside slate last night. And I think that partially explains these really low fail rates as well, because the definition of a fail, as we define it, is that you are hurting the lineup's chances of cashing. And a lot of the time when, let's say, Kevin Love gives you 9 fantasy points tonight, or Wiggins gives you 11 fantasy points tonight, they might not be actually hurting your chance of cashing if, number one, they get you to the guys that you absolutely need to have on the slate to have a chance of cashing. And number two, if there aren't any guys that you could have pivoted to who would have done significantly better than those guys. And in that way, I think what we're seeing here is like, this is a slate where you maybe want to almost think about the floor of your plays as much as the ceiling of a lot of your plays. You still need contrarian upside somewhere in your lineup, but whereas a lot of the time we say, I need all 8 guys in my NBA DFS lineup to have that little fire icon next to their name at the end of the night. You might not need that on this slate. You might just need them to be serviceable.
Well, what you're going to need is some Charlotte Hornets value because LaMelo Ball is out, Brandon Miller is out, and Mark Williams is out. So let's talk through that before we shut it down here on our Friday. Like I mentioned, Vasilije Micic is going to look very good, especially over on FanDuel where he is back down to 4,200. So like, again, Delon Wright, 3,500. Vasilije Micic, 4,200. I think we can get to our 12-2 Giannis now and pretty comfortably. Like Miles Bridges is only 7,100 over there. Nick Richards now with no Mark Williams, 5,600 on FanDuel. And also, of course, some pretty favorable prices on DraftKings as well, pulling those up, filtering for Charlotte. 6,300 for Miles Bridges, 52 on Caleb Martin, 51 on Nick Richards, down to 4K for Micic, right? And like, I even think on this slate, like, especially in large field tournaments, or if you're running MME sets, like a guy like Isaiah Wong might come into play now for this Hornets team. So like, again, this is what I was talking about through the first 30 minutes or so of the stream is like the slate is going to be turned on its head. We'll rerun the projections, the ownership, all of that, and things, of course, changing drastically here with the expensive guys essentially going out for the Hornets and Mark Williams there in the front court. So you just got even more value, and it's going to take away, I think, the priority that we were placing on Delon Wright and Aaron Wiggins. Those guys are not going to be out of play now, but I do think that this probably just made this slate a little bit more fun because now we have a broader menu of strong value plays to differentiate. I just hope now that we don't get a ton of Oklahoma City rest, if any at all, because like then we could have the opposite problem where there's only like 3 players to spend up on, and then everybody's ownership coalesces there. So, I got fingers crossed for a clean OKC injury report coming probably in about 25 minutes.
Yeah, Philly too. Because like if Embiid is also out, Giannis is going to be 90% owned. So yeah, Giannis is already going way up with this news, but he could go even higher if we get no Embiid at this point. So yeah, honestly, like I don't even have a ton to add here. We're just gonna have to redo all the ownership, redo all the projections, and kind of see where we land then.
Yeah. So again, the good thing is none of our picks on Underdog there were affected by that news. So we'll see what happens when that Thunder injury report drops. And of course, once we get the stocks props, the fantasy score props, which again, they probably hold off even longer now with that news coming through and the Thunder dropping, you would assume with the 130 injury report, we will have more picks. It might just be one. It might be a handful, though, for our FTN Fantasy subscribers in the Pick'em Games channel of the Discord. Anything else for you, Alex, before we shut it down?
That's all I got.
All right, everybody. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking with us here. If you're catching us live, hit the thumbs up, like the video, subscribe to the channel. It helps us grow the Daily Dime. If you're coming to us on Twitter, like and repost the stream if you've been tuned in there. It doesn't cost you anything to just click those buttons for us. So, Alex, I think we will communicate next week's schedule, the holiday week schedule, to our subscribers in the FTN Fantasy Discord. Right now, if you're not a subscriber and you tune into the Daily Dime, I don't know what you're waiting for. You can actually sign up. You can go to our Twitter page and see the discount. Do you know the discount code off the top of your head for the holiday special?
Ooh, no, I don't. But I know there's one for 15%, and there's a 10% promo for any FTN swag in the shop that you want. So you can go check out all of those. I know that if you click on any article, the right-hand rail shows you those promo codes. So that's where you can go to find them.
Promo code, we have the technology. Promo code Holiday Edge, all
There
one
you
word.
go.
That'll get you 15% off an FTN subscription. So you come join us. You can plan on us being back here on Monday. Again, new start time, 12:30 p.m. Monday through Friday here on the Daily Dime. The one day I can tell you we will not have a Daily Dime, or actually 2, Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, but we will have a stream for our subscribers on Christmas Eve, NBA props, NBA DFS. So looking forward to that. Everybody, enjoy your holiday, no matter how you celebrate, and we'll see you back here on Monday for another edition of the Daily Dime. Till then, he's Alex, I'm Zach. Goodbye.